It's on the screen.
The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm Steven Sakash here again with my co-host Tulio Siragusa, and we've got a special guest who we'll introduce in a moment. So franchising has long been a powerful pathway into business ownership, and it gives entrepreneurs the opportunity to build locally while drawing from proven systems, brand support, training, and operational experience. But as businesses continue to evolve, the future of franchising cannot be just about expansion. It must also take into consideration, innovation and topics like community trust and long-term responsibility and ethics. And in essential home services, that responsibility becomes especially clear when someone is inviting a service professional into their home. They aren't simply, buying a repair or installation. They're placing trust in a company to show up with skill, honesty, reliability, and ideally care. And so today we are exploring ethical community growth and the future of innovative franchise models. And we're going to talk about how franchising can create opportunity for entrepreneurs and how systems can support responsible growth and how local service businesses can strengthen the communities they serve. Tulio, introduce our guest today.
Absolutely. Our guest today is Nick Ridgway, Vice President of Franchise Development for Service Experts. Nick leads the growth and expansion of the Service Experts franchise program, helping prospective owners evaluate opportunities in the essential home services industry. He brings more than 10 years of franchising experience across support, development, and leadership, and has helped more than 400 entrepreneurs move toward successful business ownership. At Service Experts, Nick helps entrepreneurs leverage proven systems, national brand support, operational excellence, and local service opportunities to build sustainable businesses rooted in trust and community impact. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you both.
Yeah, so Nick, let's start kind of on that topic area, ethical community growth and the future of innovative franchise models. What does ethical community growth mean to you in the concept and context of franchising?
I think it really kind of goes back to it's our why in franchising. Home service businesses are really built on a foundation of community involvement and built with a face to the organization. If you look at any home services, most of them are regional or even local players. And that was one of the reasons we wanted to play on that, because people, like you said, are allowing them in their home. They need to build a foundation of trust and a high level of trust, because once they have that service, they continue to use it. So it's really a driver for us to find the right franchisees to help build that ethical local community, being part of it.
Can you give people a little background on the types of businesses that and the types of services you do in people's homes?
Yeah, so we're an HVAC company. So we do HVAC repair and replacement, in-home air quality, as well as in some markets, the franchise owners will do water heaters. As a full scope, we do plumbing as well as electrical as well. So we have a full scope of services ranging from airflow to water to the electricity in the home.
Yeah, and I know, as my house, you're always looking for that person you can trust, that plumber that you can trust, right? That is not going to upsell you on something, or you've always kind of shopping around that. So you really concentrate on kind of that ethical approach, right, to doing what you do in people's homes.
Yes, we have a tagline. It's trust the experts. That's what we focus on. It's in our name as a brand. It's what we promote as a brand. And we want to make sure that we're helping customers do the right thing and do what's needed to be able to fix the problem, whatever the problem may be, but give them affordable solutions to make sure that we're going the extra mile as well, right? So that we're comparable in cost, but also giving value adds. So build high level of trust, high standards in terms of the services delivered, and then make sure that we have repeat touches to build that relationship and trust and with the customer long term.
Nice. I consider myself pretty handy, but there's certain things I will never touch: plumbing, heating, all those things.
That's what I said. You got to trust the experts.
That's those areas like you need an expert. I wouldn't dare touch any of that stuff, but I'll handle everything else. But that stuff, even some electrical, but
Chat GPT is like, it's easy. All you have to do is this.
Bending pipes and welding. There's no way I can do any of that. I wouldn't even take a chance. So, but we're talking about innovation, right? And quite often there's a perception that in franchising, someone's done all the innovation already. And so it's really about growth. It's a growth vehicle, growth engine. That's purely the focus. At least that's the perception across many franchises. So how do you think innovative franchise models are changing that perception?
I think that's a good question. There's a lot of them out there in a lot of industries. Like, just speaking of HVAC, our core business, we're not the first franchisor to provide HVAC services. There's some great ones that currently do it today that provide good service across the U.S. When we went to get into franchising, we wanted to do it with a few core differences, and to make sure that we had differentiators that really help drive a difference into what we provide in the market. And really, I'll just kind of give you, there's two. So one is that making sure that we have good, strong lead generation programs, or as some would call national accounts, to help drive volume and work to our franchisees. So that was a big, important piece for us, because we wanted to make sure we had partnerships that could help leverage relationships at a local level, right? So, and that helps drive leads in some of our markets. And the second thing is coming back to the customer and building trust, is the driver of our Advantage program, which is our leasing program. That's where we're able to provide customers and allow HVAC replacement to be more affordable for the average homeowner, but provide ways to get them a full peace of mind. So they know exactly who to call, when to call, that we're doing once a year maintenance to stop by. And it provides an innovation piece from franchising. It provides the franchisee a way to build a subscription-based model in HVAC to have more consistent work through the 12 months of the year, versus having high peaks of the season, right? So, or having real low peaks of the season. So it builds trust with the franchisees. They're able to build good reoccurring revenue base, but it also builds a business that can sustain employees all year round. So then you build a better culture within the organization as well.
Now, there have been some highly successful franchises over the years that have created tremendous value for everyone all around. But then there's been some that have been so focused on the expansion, just for the sake of expansion, that have gotten into trouble over time. What do you think separates responsible franchise growth from expansion for the sake of expansion? And why do you think that's important?
Well, I think that, first, what separates that is, I think it starts at the top of the funnel when you're bringing candidates in and understanding who you're actually looking for. Who's the right fit for your brand? And that changes over time. So who you look for as the foundational piece today, as our first 10, 20 franchise owners, is different than probably as we get to 30 franchises and 50 and 100. But you have to have a standard of what you bring in and what you're willing to do. It's not about the money. That's a bad line that comes into franchising, right? Is that they're doing it to get the royalties. That's not what this is about. So we want to be able to grow, but grow with the right people and ensure it's sustained. We take it serious that people are investing into our brand. We want to make sure we do everything on our part to have the systems, processes, and the strong selection process to ensure that we're selecting the right people, and how we're able to support them, right? Because we say you can come in with no experience, right? So, but I think that also in turn gives a bad kind of a rap for franchising, or makes it a little bit challenging in the beginning because people see those out there, right? So, and not all franchising is created equal, and we want to make sure we're selecting the right ones, because the people invest into our brand is to make sure that they are getting what they were expecting to get coming into this franchise model, which varies, right? But are they getting what they need?
From the investor's point of view, from the point of view of a franchisee, what should they be looking out for to know whether they're investing into something that actually really cares about them, that's going to spend time in helping them, or they're just trying to get another growth, another revenue stream in place? What should they be looking out for? You shared what you're looking out for. What should they be looking out for? What are the sort of signs that, like, these guys are going to help me succeed? What's the telltale signs in your opinion?
I think that's a good question. And it's a question that sometimes people aren't able to search on ChatGPT, or they just don't know what to really look for. But I think that you really have to see, okay, is there consistency in the messaging from the information that comes up front to your point of contact to leaders that come out through the process? Is there involvement of other people in the organization, right? And what's that interaction like? I think that's pretty important, because if they're interacting together, they're working together, they're driving the same message, you can see unity within the brand. But also I'd say understanding the brand's why, like what are they trying to do and why? So like if you look at us, somebody comes to our brand today, they're saying that we're heavily investing into the brand from a top of funnel perspective and driving all the resources in to help drive value for the franchise owner. We have a big scope of work in terms of what we're willing to do for franchise owners, and here's what they can expect from us. It's not just royalties, it's royalties with, like, you're paying royalties for use of brand, but I'm giving you this to add value to that, to make sure that you were filling in those holes in your business to be able to run an efficient operation, right? And then I think as you get feedback from franchisees, like who's done it before and what's their truth? I think some people skip over that. They go to the FDD, or an FDD comes, right, and they look at it, or they try to read it. They don't understand it. It's a lot of legalese. But I think that you can get the truth by looking at a brand's franchise owners, their employees within the business, even customers. The guy we have here today looked at one of our suppliers, went to a supplier that we have, embedded them that way. So, and to learn about our brand. So, I mean, which I thought was very smart, and he got good feedback, right?
Yeah, and I think when you think about like that conscious capitalism approach, it's really it's not just you and like a customer or you and employees. You're really thinking about things like your suppliers and stuff, like those relationships, right? And so when someone's vetting you and they go into your supplier, that kind of tells a big story kind of about you, whether you're, how you work with them, how you engage with all these different stakeholders in a business, right?
Yeah. No, I thought it was really creative on their part. But it's just, they're going into depth to not just validate my word or the sales team's word or what material we've provided, but they're looking at things at a lot of different levels, and they're speaking to a lot of people, and there's consistency in messaging. But they have to look at the brand, the people, and then the systems and processes that actually come with it. And is it validated? So validated by the FDD, by what people show, what people talk about. And then what are the reviews on people, right? So what do people that have done it before say about it?
It's so true. It's been said, when you're choosing like your spouse, go see how your future spouse interacts with his or her parents. See how his or her parents will speak to their siblings, because that's going to reveal the truth about who they really are and how they'll eventually interact with you. So the same thing, a brand could look really polished on the outside with customers, but how do they treat their vendors? What do their vendors think about them? It tells about a brand's consistency. I'm curious though, like, you develop franchise. So let's say I've got a great idea and I've built good system. And then there's that big question of expansion. Do I go on my own or do I franchise this business? What's a good sort of like way to weigh that in? Like if I'm a business owner and I've got a great idea and I want to think about expansion, why would I want to consider franchising? Where does that conversation maybe come to life as a good opportunity? And is that the kind of thing you help them develop?
So let's just look at it two ways, right? From a franchisor's perspective, and what would it be from a franchisee? So as a franchisor, I think they just have to evaluate where they're at with people, right? Because human capital is a big piece. Obviously, having the liquidity or the cash to be able to fund that investment, and how can you do that and scale when you start stretching out, right? Because that's where it really becomes challenging. In franchising, for a franchisor's perspective, is it helps you properly incentivize the local owner to do it the right way, right? So now when it comes to franchisees, like, I think that they have to really sit down and say, am I using franchising for what it is? So like when we're evaluating candidates coming in, if they're coming in talking about changing the system, or why do you do it this way? I would do it that way. Like, those are kind of red flags. So as you're seeing, is that's only going to amplify as you exchange money. So, but franchising is the process. People I've seen do franchising and do it really well from a franchisee perspective. They use franchising for what it is. So, and it has systems, processes, tools, and it has leverage that for what it is, because that's your way to be able to save. Don't change the process, execute the process, and tweak it to where you're allowed to tweak. If you do that, you won't be disappointed. And everybody says online, if you look at reviews on franchising, everybody says it's about loss of control, right? Or I wasn't able to do X or Y. That's the majority of what people say is bad. But if you have good value for the exchange of royalties for value back to the franchisee and they use it for what it is, you can leverage that pretty well.
So one of the things we like to talk about on the show is these systems and franchises. They always have these great scalable systems and very well versed in that. And we mention always trying to see how you can systemize things like care and compassion and across your franchisees and their customers that they deal with. Do you have any kind of systems, or what kind of systems need to be in place for franchise growth to be scalable, compassionate, and ethical? Those kind of things. What kind of things do you guys do to help?
Yeah, so I've always really kind of operated too, is there's three components that make or break your relationship with a franchisee, and you have to be honest, deliver, and it has to be consistent. And that's one, the sales process. So are we giving them the information that's necessary to make the decision, and truthful information, and allowing them access to a lot of information to be able to learn what they need, right? So consistent. Second is that on the onboarding process. So after we sign that document and we exchange money for they pay a franchise fee, are we delivering what we say we were going to deliver, right? So onboarding support, like transitioning them that way, and then also going into training, right? That's what I would kind of lump into onboarding. Are we training them on not everything and on a playbook? A playbook is one thing, but executing how you as an owner can onboard your business, start taking phone calls, do the service, and collect the money, right? That's really what you need to do. Everything else you can build into, but you need to be able to foundationally be able to do that. And the third thing is how you treat them and support them ongoing, because it's our job to deliver and evolve the brand. That's what we do as a franchisor. So we have to make sure that we're continuing to deliver that and putting new things in place to help drive that. So it's important that those systems are in place. You need the training, you need the sales process, but it all has to link together, and you have those three legs of the stool that kind of work in tandem. But if you do anything poorly through those processes, that's the first thing that comes back when people are not happy with their choice, or they're in a tough spot. They're going to bring back things that didn't work, so or weren't delivered.
Yeah, I'd be very curious about what's the initial entry point. Is it typically something planned or something urgent that happens? I'm curious what the percentage is of where your first entry point is as a customer. And then when something happens like that is urgent, the customer's calling, they're under stress, they're something of an emergency, how does the franchise systems help those local owners deliver that consistent experience that normally you don't get to sort of plan out when it's like something 2 weeks from now, but it's urgent, allowing them to still bring that personal care, but also deliver it with a sense of urgency that is needed at the moment. So I'm curious, what's the percentage, if you know, of the entry point for customers? Is it usually through an urgency and then they become a customer, or something planned and then they call you when they have an emergency? What's the mix usually?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we're an emergency-based business, right? That's the majority of our work. Heat goes down, air goes down, and they're at a point where they need it. So that's why we get busy through the peaks of big weather fluctuations, cold or hot. But so that's your point of entry. So how quickly you answer the phone, how you answer the phone, like the information you're providing them, and how quickly you can get on site. So like that's the big piece there. There is a lot of competition when it comes to HVAC. A lot of people do it, right? And a lot of people have built some really good businesses that are small businesses. They feed their family and they take care of their customers and they do a good job. But what's a big thing in the HVAC industry, not everybody can get there quick. So they can't get there within the same day or next day or whatever. We try to provide full solutions and installs within 24 hours. And the way that we do that is by staffing the right people and having the right roles in place. We have support because we're still building our franchise system, but just the way we do it now is the phone rings locally. If it doesn't answer there, it kind of goes and flows into other areas. So there is a response to every customer that calls in very quickly. So they get a response and some sort of resolution. And then there's updates to those customers, right? Having that communication and then providing service locally. And that's the way that in delivering that service, but that comes down to suppliers, tools, trucks, the way that we kind of set that standard of what's there. And then also just making sure you have the systems to monitor it. What are those metrics or KPIs you need to monitor to ensure you're delivering that? Because it'll tell the story. That's why you see a lot of people like getting into home services, is because it is a replicatable model. It's repeatable over and over and over and over again, right? It's marketing, bring it in, sales, provide service. So.
All right, I want to follow up on that, but I know we've got a couple audience questions here. Let's hit on those while we can. All right, it's from a LinkedIn user. What advice would you give someone leaving corporate life to become a franchise owner?
That's a really good question. So I would say that we call them corporate refugees. So people get to a point in life that they either the job is moving on to something else, right? The organization's moving and they're forced to make a choice, or they're just at a time where they want to do something different in their life and have a different work-life balance. So, but what I say is, one is make sure that you're not buying the business with the intention you have to live off of it right away. So have enough capital reserve to be able to support it. If you can do it and live out the business quickly, that's a benefit. But if you're coming in and you have to put pressure of taking money out very quickly, it becomes very stressful. Right. And two is making sure that you understand what it is growing a business versus operating one that's already there, because you don't have all the same resources that maybe you had at a larger organization. So you have to not only have people locally that you can trust and have advice and have a mentor and those sorts of things, but lean on the franchisor, because the franchisor is going to be able to fill the gaps. That's our role. So when you sign a franchise with me, if your strength is sales, I'm going to help you be strong at sales and help you focus to that. And you're going to do everything else, but I'm going to focus it. And the third thing I tell them is try not to do everything yourself. The biggest thing in business ownership is delegation. People reach their ceiling faster when they are the only one that does it in their organization.
Yep.
Are there ever instances where there is a franchise that someone could make an instant living out of it, or is it always look at it as an investment stream?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there is. If you look at the economics of ours and the FDD, you definitely could. And what I mean by that, just for clarification, is if somebody's trying to replace their full salary, like let's say they're coming out of corporate and they were 250 or 300, like you're not going to replace that when you open up your doors. Your phone hasn't even rang yet. So you can't put that burden on the business, but make that part of your goal. We would help build out that plan, and then you can then work towards what your goal is. Everybody's definition of success and business ownership is totally different. So everybody defines it like, hey, I'm just doing it. It's not a quick get rich quick scheme. That's not what it is. I mean, you have to build it, sustain it, and then you have to scale it, which means if you're going to scale, you can't pull the money out. You got to keep it in, right? You got to keep investing it and driving it and be able to scale. And scale requires additional investment. Initial investment requires additional work, and it's kind of a cycle. So you have to be prepared not to not make money or lose money. You have to be prepared that you may have to transition salary expectations and things like that over time.
Yeah.
Good advice for the corporate refugees. Let's see, we've got another question here. All right. What role does mentorship play in franchise development?
I think it's huge. I have mentors that I call. I have mentors for different things, right? I mean, I've even used coaches for myself. So just to make sure that I'm saying the right things or doing the right things, or, hey, I have X problem and am I looking to solving this the right way? So I think it's very important. So when you're trying to mentorships, I mean, somebody told me a long time ago, I was not one that was I'll just go do it. I'll get it done. But it's not the way to do it, right? You've got to be able to utilize those mentors, take that feedback, and then help delegate or receive information, do it that way. So I think it plays a big role.
So one thing that I was wanting to follow up from before was, you have like those corporate refugee types. You've got people that are coming to you with entrepreneurial spirit, right? You've got people that are like, have this impulse now that really want to do something. How can franchisors support owners without taking away some of that entrepreneurial spirit? And I know sometimes it's tricky balance sometimes, because sometimes your best ideas could come kind of bubble up from some local level doing something, but at the same time it's like, hey, yeah, but also follow these systems because we know they're proven. How do you strike that balance, and how do you support those owners without taking away that entrepreneurial spirit?
That kind of comes back to that trust and that relationship that you build, and also being open for opportunities. Just because we're the franchisor and we put our brand on a truck and we say we've had success doesn't mean that we have all the right answers. It just means that we've developed to a certain point and to evolve. The business and the franchise owners, or the franchise owners, should help the business evolve based on their ideas and sharing feedback up, we're sharing feedback down, and working together as a team to execute. At the end of the day, it's a matter of we're getting more calls, we're servicing more customers, we're getting advantage programs, and we're driving it. As long as we're staying within the brand, we should work together on that. So I know that that's always one that people look at, but I think in our brand and just other brands I've worked for, we want franchise owners to share things to us, with us. Like I know that we're developing a lot early on with franchise owners in just ways that they've seen it and feedback they've given us just even early on. So, and that's something we'll continue to do because it'll help evolve it for everybody else. But they also have to be able to, on the flip side of that, to say, no, I'm not sure I can replicate this over everything. Like maybe we need more time. Let's do this for now, and then we can work towards it, right? So it's that having that trust and that relationship to be able to have that conversation and be able to work both ways. But we're totally open to having it, and it should be there. Otherwise, if you're going back to the evaluation point, if that's not there, like that'd be a red flag.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wanted to sort of follow up to Stephen's question and maybe simplify it this way. Is it better to be the cook instead of the chef? Like if you have the desire to be the chef, maybe it's not the right fit for you versus the one who wants to just be the cook.
Yes.
Okay, because the chef's going to want to be creative and do things. They're not going to be told the recipes. They're creating the recipes. So it's in terms of the right fit, it's better to be the cook. Is that the right analogy that I'm thinking?
I mean, yeah, I think in some cases you can apply that. I think it also depends on the brand too. In a service company, we have to provide a lot of flexibility, right? So for them to operate locally, we want them to drive the brand in the community and be part of that. And we give them a lot of flexibility on their pricing and what they do from a program perspective. We just require the Advantage program using the CRM that we're using. So we all have data to be able to report back and the financials. And then there's a couple other things that we have them say, hey, you got to use this. But otherwise, we just provide options. Here's options, but option C could be you going to do it somewhere else. So we want to make sure that they have that flexibility, that they're not tied down to one thing. The consistent has to be that you're staying on brand. So the customer
is important too. Without the execution, you've got a terrible meal, right? So you still you need the cook to be spot on for the meal to come out amazing. So I'm just, everything comes down to purpose. One of the things that we focus on is the role purpose plays and how the business is shaping itself, how people feel inspired to be part of a business or to be part of a franchise or a movement. And one of the most powerful things about franchising is that it can create really great local business ownership, local impact jobs, create local community relationship while still being supported by a larger system. In some cases, you could be local and have a global brand behind you. So how do you see franchise ownership contributing to community growth and in a meaningful way? And how does that come into play? Who decides where to play in terms of supporting the local community? Is that something left to the franchisee, or is the franchisor looking at programs, or is that a partnership? How does that come to play in terms of the impact that the owners can have on their local community while still being part of a larger system?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple parts to that question. It's a really good question. So, I mean, the IFA goes back to talk about franchising. It means local, right? That's what it means. And if you're trying to, and doing a franchise, locally owned and operated business with a national brand supporting it, that's exactly what we're doing. We want to play both sides of the strength of home services, locally owned and operated businesses, and then also having the support from a national brand. We're even investing in converting all of our businesses to just service experts. There's really nothing else to be named something else but service experts, because we want to be a true national brand to add that, it'd be a value add to the franchise owners, right? So, and just for our brand, for the locations, we're going to operate consistently corporate locations with growth with franchise locations. So we're going to be one brand, one system, one resource. But now when it comes to execution locally, that's the franchise owner. We do the same thing with our local leadership in our corporate locations. Like, we want them to come up with the ideas and be part of different things in the community. And then franchise owners can just execute. But if they need guidance, we have playbook systems, tools like connections. We have PR agencies. We have all these things in place to help them execute whatever they're looking to do. And we provide the same thing. We just help kind of ensure consistency across. And franchising, one of the strengths of it is that getting that community or back to mentorships, you have that community of people doing the same thing that you were doing at scale. So now you have all these resources to pull on. A small business owner locally does not have most of the time another business owner to call in the same space to say, hey, what are you doing here? What do you think about your pricing here? They don't have that.
Right.
So,
they would have a competitor who's not likely to share anything with them. Right.
And home services is competitive. So now you have a foundation of franchise owners that are doing the same thing, and you have a brand that's doing it with them to help drive results. You have support, like not just from an operational standpoint, but you have like mentors and tools and systems and people in place that know what to do and how to do it and done it across the country.
One thing marketing agencies, well, our marketing agency anyway, focuses on is that consumption experience with a product or a service, because we know there's like actually 17 different emotions involved in this consumption experience, negative and positive, and that trying to get on that positive side of them is just vitally important for that kind of that long-term customer. So thinking about that, how can franchise owners build a business that the customer experience isn't just reliable, but it's also, that caring, very ethical. What do you guys do to help promote that?
I think that's part of the foundation of what Service Experts is. What's big in home services is everybody wants memberships, right? So memberships, those are customers you're visiting every year. They get priority service or discounted parts or something along those lines. But we've kind of taken it to the next level with having memberships, but also our Advantage program. And those touch points are ultra important with the customers. So what's that communication like? What are you communicating? It's not, you're not sending out everything with a right hook on it, right? So it's not all about buy, but it's more about education about what to do and creating those touch points. And that's what we do here as a corporate at the corporate office is we're preparing that for our locations and franchisees. So they have that template of what to do and how to communicate with the greater population of their market. But then also from a customer standpoint, we want them to truly be sticky. So we want to add value adds like our home health report card or other touch points that we have that we're doing things above and beyond what is just required on a service call, that on these even maintenance calls that we're doing once or twice a year, and any touch point we have, that are we doing things that are looked at as perceived value and above and beyond, and truly things that we're doing with not the intention of return, is just I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because I know long-term, if you give me good NPS scores, if you give me good reviews, everything else combined, you are going to trust me to do the work for you, and we will have a long-standing relationship. And that's what we're driving to, is that true sticky customer.
Yeah, I think that's, and you've got the feedback loop in there with the NPS scores and things like that, where you can kind of optimize toward that, which is vitally important.
Yeah, we view ourselves as a marketing company. I mean, we market, we have to do it very well. And we have to build a reputation and a brand consistently across the organization and across the country. And we've done that. We've done things right. We've done things wrong. We've had to make corrections and we had to move forward, but we keep moving forward, right? So, and it's, I think the team does a really good job at doing that and preparing franchise owners to do the same thing.
Yeah, now, Nick, you've been doing this for a while. I'd be curious if you've seen an evolution generationally in terms of what was expected maybe 15 years ago, what's expected today, and even in the future, what is the future of franchising look like? As the ownership model evolved, as the buyer evolved, what's changed over the years, or has it been pretty consistent? I'm curious about what that's been like and where it's heading.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good question. So like back 10 years ago when I had a franchise, but they're not that they didn't have enough same resources as buyers today to be able to educate themselves, right? So everything had to be phone calls to somebody or what they found online, which was at 10 years ago was not nearly the capacity of what you can find today. So by doing this is that now they have AI, they could take your agreements and dump it in and get feedback coming back. We get it all the time where people are sending us things that just outlines of questions, or like you have to understand that they are going to get a lot more information. So how are you seeing that information and educating them through the process? So I think that that's changed. The concept of, so the buyer is definitely different, still the same types of people, but they definitely have a lot more knowledge than they did 10 years ago. I think the franchise structure, I mean, the FDD is still 23 items. I mean, the franchise agreement's about the same. I think a lot of that's different. You probably have a little bit more online clause and things about social media and things in that nature that are in there. But outside of that, most of it's relatively the same. But I think that, and then also the research that people get when they are franchise owners, that's a different kind of operator, right? They have like knowledge, like of things that are coming in. Like I can see it when people come through now, they have a lot of research and a lot of depth checklists and things like that they maybe wouldn't have had 10 years ago. So they're more prepared in some cases. It's information that you get is only as good as how you know how to use it. So, I mean, you got to get the information. You still have to execute, right? But they are coming in with probably a little bit stronger questions, stronger process, ready to move a little bit faster and hit the market.
So, Nick, on the show, we talk a lot about how love shows up in ways like, care, responsibility, trust, commitment to your people. And the question we ask everyone who comes on the show is this: it's what role should love play in business?
I think that's a good question. I think that when you look at leadership, or you look at from a franchisor's perspective, they have to love what they do. Franchising is not for the weak at heart. You were doing things that provide stress, tension. There's a lot of things that foundationally that are there that can go awry. So you can't go in it thinking that everything's going to be fine. You have to understand that going in. So you have to love it, right? You have to have a high level of compassion and love for your franchise owners, regardless of their skill set, background, wherever it is, right? They have to know that you have their back. There's a level of care that comes into that. And I think to be a business owner, you've got to have love for doing it. I see people all the time come in with spouses or kids or that. I ask them all the time, one, do they know that they're going to do this? And two, have you guys really thought through what this looks like when you're going to work together? Because you have a relationship and there's a foundation, your family. What are you going to do when you add money and work into that? Not everybody can do that and do that at a high level. So I think that there definitely is, especially in franchising, a foundation of a lot of love, a lot of trust, and a lot of respect to make sure that you're all working towards the same thing and that you can mutually agree that you're both trying to execute, right? So it's a matter of how do you get there and do it well and do it with a good level of compassion and love for each other to drive it forward. Very relationship driven.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the newer generation, this is a good thing. They care about ethics and how brands show up and the impact they're having on the community and even on society at large. When you think about the future of innovative franchise models, what role do ethics, transparency, and community responsibility need to play? What role do they need to play, in your opinion?
I mean, I think they need to play a factor in a lot of roles, right? So, being part of the community is, again, a big part of our why. We want to do this to be part of the community. We want to do this to help our employees, right, that have helped contribute to Service Experts to be able to have business ownership, right? We want to do a lot of things to be we want Service Experts to be a community brand, right? So in all markets across the country. And our avenue for that is franchising. So we are very focused to that and to drive it and to make sure that we are doing the right thing to promote the brand the right way and getting those good reviews, right? I mean, we have a 4.9 stars. I mean, we have, you have good days and bad days on the review board, right? It's just a matter of what you do to make that consistent and follow up with that and drive those reviews and continue to get that improved. And that's an expectation we have for our franchise owners too, is maintaining good brand standards there on the local level, because every customer counts, every customer matters, and they all feed to the greater good, right? And feed the pot, and we're collectively doing this together.
All right, Nick, for those who want to learn more about you, Service Experts, and franchise opportunities, where can they find you?
All right. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. I am Nick Ridgway with no E. So you have to resist it. So nick.ridgway@serviceexperts.com. Or if you search me on LinkedIn, you can see it there. But I would also tell people to look at serviceexperts.com/franchising. We just launched a new website within the last 8 to 10 months. And it's a very great website, very user-friendly, and it has a lot of information about our system and our business and what we're trying to do. Both from a corporate standpoint and what we're operating from our business, and then what we're doing from a franchise business. And we're running these in parallel. So we want to be a franchise system that runs corporate businesses to add value, to develop the brand, but then also have franchise businesses that run in parallel to help us grow.
Nick, thank you for joining us today. A lot of good insight on your franchise model. And to our listeners, thank you for the great questions, as always. And think about the strong systems and that you can build that can align with your ethics and your care and compassion, and that can become kind of a path to sort of the local impact or a meaningful service to your community. And thank you again for joining us on the Bliss Business Podcast, and we will see you next time.